we are gifted with the reading from Revelation this morning. It is a gift that we only get every 3 years in the lectionary, and it always falls in Easter season. And it's perfectly placed there because it's a view of post-resurrection heaven, where Jesus is in the eschaton, or the hereafter. Much like last week, Chuck was talking about Peter before and Peter after resurrection, having clarity about who Christ is. This is that same vibe. Christ before, Christ after, God before, God after, heaven before and heaven after resurrection. Revelation is apocalyptic. It's written by John, who is a prophet, who is probably not the same as John the Apostle, who wrote the gospel. It's told from his perspective as a person who has an experience of Christ's resurrection, but is still earthbound. He has seen the veil between heaven and earth pulled back, and he has a clear view of the Godhead and all that surrounds. And the author is doing his level best to describe something that is absolutely beyond description. He uses metaphors and myths to call to the imagination so that we may see his vision of where Christ went, lest we continue to wonder if he is ever coming back. I would like to know if he's ever coming back, because my God, I am thirsty and I cannot sleep more than 5 hours anymore, and it seems like everything is on fire. Most of us avoid preaching Revelation because it's complicated. The imagery is Greco-Roman. It was written in the 1st century for an audience who understood legend and myth and knew that terrible things came out of the sea. They believed in dragons, and not just because they watched Game of Thrones. We also avoid preaching Revelation because pop culture has had a field day with it. When the river Euphrates dried up, it became crystal clear to some of us that we must be in that part of the Revelation story, and then we could just go ahead and track our future from there on out. It's not that kind of prophecy, you see. Let me be really clear. I think it is a mistake to view the Revelation in this way. The way it is presented to us in the lectionary is very tidy, leaving out all the troublesome imagery and giving us a very high-level view of the nature of God, the purpose and work of the resurrection, and the future of God's kingdom. So I can just avoid all of that imagery that's problematic. The author gives us a description of where and who Christ is now post-resurrection. It paints Jesus as a lamb who was slaughtered for us by his enemies, a sacrifice that was given willingly so that we would be able to join him at God's side in glory, giving God dominion forever. It calls out Jesus as worthy of being glorified and held in the same esteem as the Creator. And he describes God not with a physical body, the way we have chosen to imagine God throughout our history, but instead as a visible light and color. In one part of the Revelation, he describes jasper and carnelian, a rainbow that looks like an emerald. And the author speaks of God as he who is, and who was, and who is to come. It's clear that we are to be co-creators with God, and that when God is revealed to us, it will be here on earth. This writing is meant to give us a nugget of hope. This is the opposite way that we've been inclined to think of heaven, though, right? We've built our view on the presupposition that we will go up to God as Christ did, and that will be our dwelling place. But John's revelation tells of a time where this earth will be remade, and that God will join us on this new earth, and we, as co-creators, will be able to look upon God's face without fear. Further, this revelation is clear that it is a call to all tribes of the earth, that all are welcome, and it clearly states that all are and will be equal. No one and no thing is excluded, and all will glorify God the exact same way, with the palm branches and the yelling and the beautiful robes. Now, that's not to say there is not suffering here. And I want to name that what we suffer every day is excruciating as a human race. Here and now, our suffering is made by us, by humankind. And it's important to note in Revelation that John also speaks of the judgment that is coming. No other thing, because the other thing that Revelation does promise beyond God's return is that there will be judgment. And this judgment seems to be visited upon people who have great power and privilege and use it for their own gain. That's what Revelation calls out. Those who seem to exact the judgment are those who are using their power for themselves, rather than lifting up those who do not have power and privilege. And I find that to be comforting when I see the injustices stacking up and surrounding us in these days. I want you to know that I believe deeply in this vision of John's. I believe that we will all be caught up in the glory and that there will be great peace in a new world that we create with God. I know that God and heaven are present and available to us here and now. And that the empire and power that we crave and wield and build in this world are not the things that our souls desire. I know that what our souls desire is love and belonging to God and to one another. I feel grateful for the knowledge that we will be together in the hereafter, loved ones. Because if I know anything about you, it's that you use your power and privilege for the lifting up of God's most tender and vulnerable people. I saw you lift Juan when Juan had nothing to offer but his precious smile. I've seen you mourn deeply because you care deeply for your people. And it is apparent to me that you will continue to show up in the most challenging places to bear witness to injustice. You are doing God's work every day, and I thank you for that. You are bringing light into a rather dim time, and I am so humbled and grateful to be among you. Amen.